Hello and welcome to In Conversation with Rashmi. Today, my guest in conversation is a young entrepreneur, Azaan Sait. He's also the Chief Happiness Officer at the Hub Bengaluru. So, thank you so much, Azaan, for being a part of this conversation. It's a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you, Rashmi. Happy to talk to you and to share my story with you and your listeners.
So, I'm going to go into what the Hub Bengaluru is at a little, a later stage. But before that, you are such a young entrepreneur, and how did this whole journey of you getting into such a, you know,
Mm.
entrepreneur world began? And you're into so many different events and organizations. So tell me about where your journey even began and how it began.
I've always had that entrepreneurial bug in me. Ever since I remember, since when I was a little kid. Um, I like to think it's because I was surrounded by strong role models. Everyone in my family, my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my aunts, everyone was doing something interesting and trying to do something on their own. So there was definitely that electric energy around me, as seeing problems and trying to solve them and create value. I've grown up watching shows like Shark Tank, so it's always been something that I've been passionate about. Um, and I think it just comes down to being exposed to the right opportunities at the right time. So now a lot of people um, know me because of my work with the Hub,
Mhm.
but that's just one of over 10 brands that we're associated with.
Yes,
So we have.
and that's something that you started even before the hub began, right? The different organizations, and you're also into charity work, from what I understand.
Yeah, so we're almost completing 10 years of Youth for Youth. We just appointed our chief giving officer this year.
Mhm.
And that's, I guess, officially one of the first organizations that I would have started in terms of figuring out how do you gather a group of people together, set a board, and actually make an impact as a company and as a larger unit rather than just as an individual.
Mhm.
Um, so I did that back when I was probably 18 in high school. So
Wow.
that was the first time I got exposure towards setting up an organization. And then since then, a lot of our ventures have been, some have been social enterprises, but a majority of the ones that we've started over the last 4 years are serious businesses. Although in every business, we're purpose driven, mission driven, and we want to support a cause and help the community in which we operate.
Mhm. So you're so driven towards doing, good and having this organizations that you start with to give back in some way to the society. How has that molded you as a person in what you do?
I think uh, I think it's huge
Hmm.
because as human beings, we have different motivations. And yes, everyone wants to have a successful, financially successful enterprise. Um, but I think if you just limit that, and if that's the only source of motivation, then at least for someone like me, then I mean, it would be harder to reach self-actualization and truly get satisfaction as to with as to the impact that I'm able to make.
Hmm.
Um, I look at business as an opportunity, business and entrepreneurship as an opportunity um, to make a difference, to have fun while doing it, to solve a problem creatively, to definitely take some value from it because you are solving a problem, but to leave a net positive impact. So you're not um, stealing that value from someone else, but you're just increasing the scope of the pie. So your work not only makes you better off, but also leaves a good impact in the community in which you operate.
Hmm. And you call yourself the Chief Happiness Officer. I see that on pretty much every organization that you've started.
Uh-huh.
Why do you call yourself that?
At least when I started 4 years ago, as every founder probably knows, you get to have fun with a couple of things, right? That's why we want to have our startup and not work a 9 to 5. So this was something that I took very seriously, and I said, me as well as everyone in my team, we're not going to have standard job descriptions,
Mhm.
because if we're going to follow things like job descriptions, we're going to follow job titles, we're going to follow things like other ways in which standard companies operate. And we're going to end up creating a bureaucratic mess for ourselves because we're going to try and just copy and mimic what these other companies have done before us. So I said, let's maybe not reinvent, but let's just customize things and make them our own. So I think when you meet someone, whether you're doing a business deal or you're a customer or you're buying something, one of the first things when you interact with a company is someone tells you their name and then their designation. And right then you form an impression of who you're dealing with and the kind of person or entity that you're going to be interacting with. So why not make that first impression that conveys to people that we're different? So it started there. And specifically Chief Happiness Officer, because I mean, it's pretty simple. One, who wouldn't want to make people happy? But realistically, if I can keep my employees happy, I may not be able to connect with every single customer. This is something I'm realizing now as our businesses begin to grow. I may not be able to connect with every single customer, but if I can keep my employees happy, and I can definitely connect with all of them, then there's a pretty good chance that they're going to take care of our members and our customers. Hence, Chief Happiness Officer.
That's fantastic. So what's the Hub Bengaluru all about? Can you tell me about it? And I'm sure in the last year and a half, there's been a huge impact in terms of, events and how the organization functions. So can you share your experiences as well as tell us what the Hub Bengaluru is all about?
Sure. So this used to be an easy question for me to answer, but over time, it seems to be getting increasingly difficult. Let's just say the Hub is one huge experiment by a crazy kid who thinks he wants to challenge different aspects and different sectors and try and see if things can be done better. So the Hub allows me to have the opportunity to dabble in different sectors. At its heart, it's a community. I used to think it's a physical community around physical spaces, but COVID encouraged me to think out of the box and to actually think whether this community needs to be tied to one location. So now the Hub is a community. It's just a community. It's not a physical community. We have an online and an offline split when we talk about the Hub. Online, over the last year, we've built a creative agency and a media house. So we work with brands, creators, we create content for our own platforms. We want to grow them. That's the vision. That's something we want to build over the next 5-10 years. And offline, we started out by trying to disrupt the housing market. So offline, we have co-living, we have co-working, we have event spaces. And most recently, we created something called the Creator Studio, which is a space that allows upcoming creators to come and use the latest technology, equipment, and infrastructure to create some amazing content, which will help them grow and give better content and grow their audience at the same time.
So for someone, as young as you, who started your journey as an entrepreneur and gotten into, different avenues in your business sector as well, what is your, I would say, advice or feedback of how to handle failures? I'm sure along the way there's been, success and failures that you've dealt at the same time.
I used to answer that question by giving whatever advice was on the top of my head, but I honestly think I think everyone has been doing a lot of self-reflecting over the last year. I don't think I'm in a position to give advice to anyone. Since I don't want to leave that question unanswered, I will say follow the right people on LinkedIn and follow the kind of people who like to talk about their failure, not about their success. That's something that I find personally that people can do. It's very simple and it could be inspiring and it could show them something that might benefit them.
What you're doing with Hub Bengaluru and the Hub itself, if people want to connect with you, reach out and understand more about what the organization is and what you do, where can they connect with you?
It depends. What do you want to know about? You want to know about co-living, co-working event spaces? DM us on the hubco.live on Instagram. You want to know about media production, brands, creators, marketing, stuff like that, DM us at the Hub Bengaluru. You want to know about storage, warehousing, and the future of logistics, DM us at community storage. You want to get involved with events, banquets, Safina banquets. You want to talk to us about how we're building a really fun community for pets, DM us at Pups of Hub. So we have so many different pages. You want to work with our social wing, DM us at y4y.org. Yeah. And it's not just me, right? So our brands are an extension of the dozens of people that are working for us. So if you want to specifically learn about something, DM one of our pages. The responsible person who's actually building that business will DM you back. So you might get a better result there than reaching out to me.
Absolutely. And what's next for the hub itself? Like, are you looking at expanding globally? Are you looking at expanding within India? Like, what's next? Where do you see, what's the goal?
The goal for the rest of the year is to survive. So expansion is not something I'm worried about right now. We've taken on a lot of responsibility. We've increased our team size by over a dozen people in 2021. While a lot of people around us are suffering and they're downsizing. So I don't want to be arrogant and look at world dominance and expansion right now. I just want to make sure that even if there are lockdowns and things don't go as planned, we can just keep sailing through whatever rough patch comes across, and keep long-term working towards the missions that each of our businesses have.
And again, since you mentioned and brought down lockdown and COVID, I'm sure, it's been a rough year last year, but we seem to be going back to where things were, or even worse at this point in time. So how are you keeping yourself motivated? How is your team staying motivated? Is there any pep talk you give, or what is it that's keeping you guys going?
I think it's a couple of things. One, we truly enjoy what we're doing, and we believe the work we do matters and it helps people. Whether we're creating content that just entertains people, because everyone is stuck at home. So we got into the content game because during lockdown we started doing a lot of Instagram lives, to encourage people to have some fun way to connect over a piece of content. So since then, obviously, the delivery form of content could have changed from lives to YouTube to Reels. But at the end of the day, the mission is the same: keep people connected over good content, help local brands, help local creators. These are all different players in the content game that need to survive. So we're trying to be that one piece of glue that brings everybody together. It's a place where people can learn, people can interact, people can sell their services in terms of, as creators, their time and their creativity. Brands can find ways to reimagine themselves in this new digital landscape that we're living in. And because there's so much to do and it's so much fun and we're working with so many people, we don't even have time to think about things like how do we motivate ourselves, because there's just so much to do. So we're super blessed that way, that we're super engrossed in what we're doing.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So you've shared the information where people can reach, and Instagram and Facebook, the different handles that they can reach out to you at. So thank you so much, Azaan. It's an absolute pleasure talking to you. And you guys stay safe, and wishing you all the very best for your future endeavors as well.
Thank you, Rashmi. It was a pleasure being on the show.